We are here to talk about MoonKnight Ep.3. Welcome to the new OneTake show where I take something off the screen, off the page, or out of my head and we talk about it in the moment, right now. So anything could happen. And we're going to jump right into it. Because there's this part where it's like Moon Knight offers up an idea to Khonshu, an Egyptian god. I know, crazy. The little bird guy? Well, not little. He's actually a big bird skeleton guy. Pigeon? I don't know. But he's like, hey, I have an idea. And no, that's a terrible idea. And then Moon Knight goes, well, you got something? And he's like, yeah, but it's a bad one. And it's literally Moon Knight's exact idea. I mean, these guys' plans, look, I get it, they're out of time, but they're about as half-assed as this show. Uh, they're about as half-baked as these cookies I made last night. On a whim, I decided to bake, which right there, on a whim and baking should never be in a sentence and never should be things that I do. Although this show is definitely on a whim. But anyways, I tried to make these cookies last night and I for one, for once I had all the ingredients. You ever like get something to bake and then you're like, oh yeah, and then you need other ingredients. I thought the package was everything that you need. This isn't just like an add water situation. Pancakes have really ruined it for me. You ever tried those instant pancakes where you just literally it's already just batter. You just pour it and you're good to go. I mean, can you imagine if they started doing that with like actual food? Like, could you imagine you just like pour liquid into a pan and all of a sudden it's a steak? I don't know if anyone would go for that. As I even said it, I was thinking to myself, I wouldn't eat that. I love steak, and I mean, it would have to look like. No, I don't think I could do it. Future's gonna be weird, man. All right, so but I tried to make these cookies and I threw them in the oven, and my goodness, they came out. They looked beautiful on the top because on the bottom they were burnt to a crisp. I'm talking charred to the bone. Like it was great. It was like the top half of the cookie looked beautiful. Looked like a professional did it. The bottom half of the cookie looked so burnt and unrecognizable. It was like somebody had put a cookie on top of charcoal. I don't know. I don't understand what happened at all. And I was like, these are great. And in fact, I made two batches, and one came out just like kind of the whole thing was burnt, and then the other ones came out where just the top half looked good. And I was like, oh, trying to give yourself credit, like, first time on a whim, and all of a sudden, no, they were both awful. But you eat them anyways, cause well, I don't know why. Maybe just because you still put in the effort, right? But man, they were. It's when something is burnt to a crisp, like I'm talking burnt. The flavor turns to ash. I don't know if that's like a good thing, like a bad way to describe it, but that's exactly what it is. So, anyways, I get it. These guys they got no time though, because they're chasing after someone who's trying to resurrect another Egyptian. There was no way that I could resurrect those cookies. So, Moon Knight Ep.3, my goodness, they're in Egypt. We got to see the Ennead, which is all the gods, and they like come together for like a good courthouse hearing of nothing. I mean, the whole plan, I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Has another plan that just straight backfires right in their face. I mean, it's a lot of, hey, we got nothing, but we're out of time. Let's do this. Oh, well, that didn't work, and now we're in more trouble. Let's go over here. Oh, nope, that didn't work. Oh, but that's cool. The gods were really interesting, and it was really cool to see them like enter the like Great Pyramid and things of that nature. And also really interesting to have Harrow, like the kind of the villain, like walk in and be able to talk to all of these gods, and as like an equal playing ground, like because he is being judged. Like he has a saying in what happens, and of course he has a big motivation to kind of steer the direction of where he needs it to go. The fight scenes in this one are just. I mean, I think for the first time we really get to see Moon Knight in Moon Knight action, and he is power gliding, kicking people in the chest, and getting speared like there ain't no tomorrow. I mean, talk about a healing factor. I mean, ouch, impaled, ouch, and then, oh, cool. And then, ouch. I mean, it was so, the way that they did it was so interesting and really different from sort of the things we've seen. It was like Captain America meets Hawkeye and that's about as far as with a little crazy Doctor Strange in there. There you go. I wrapped it up and tied it into a bow for a half a second. I was like, "You're losing it. You're losing it," but I pulled it all back together. And also though, to kind of all wrap it all up, episode 3, what a whole lot of fun. And I'm really curious because this is kind of like a good mid season point of like, what, of course, bad guy's getting everything he wants, which we'll talk about. And Moon Knight is now just Steven and Mark. After they like warped the sky, that was really cool. It was almost like he was sling ringing it. I should stop doing all these hand gestures. So I cannot wait to see how the rest of this goes, and there's so many unanswered questions. Like if now the gods aren't going to believe them at all. So the Ennead, I don't think we're gonna. If we do see them again, it's gonna be in some weird circumstance because it's like they've cried wolf. Like Khonshu, the Moon Knight god. This is gonna get confusing. It has cried wolf one too many times, and I don't know if they're gonna be of any assistance. At least Hathor, one of them. I mean, her name, the name is Hathor, did help and gave out some information, but man. So I'm really curious to see, and of course, Amit's gonna get raised, so that's gonna be exciting. And now Moon Knight has no ability, so they got to go. I mean, it's really at a pivotal moment, but they tied it so well. I'm thoroughly excited for the next one. Although I gotta wait. So now, getting off the beaten path of things, let's really dive into some things. So I've been talking about some, well, let's call them wacky ideas, because maybe some of them are complete nonsense. But what I did want to talk about is trusting yourself. The last few times I've been talking about how you're your own worst enemy and you got to get out of your own way. And now all of this is kind of convoluted into kind of this paradigm of the story, which is now there's a convolution of Khonshu, Steven, and Mark. Because at one point there's a hint that a third person has taken over, which I could only assume would be Khonshu, because there's just so much of a divide going on. But what's really interesting is now they're in a situation where they're learning how to trust each other or work together, and because they're nowhere near that, anytime like Mark gets too out of control or too into his own, Steven rails him back in, and then vice versa. Mark wants to keep a really tight leash on Steven so that Steven doesn't run off and make them go the other direction. And of course, Khonshu just wants to kill all the bad guys and be done with it. So there's a multitude of things going on, and throughout the show, I just kept starting to see of a trust within yourself. That I've kind of discussed, like being your own worst enemy and getting out of your way. Part of that, kind of conclusive basis, can rely in, now trusting yourself to utilize, what you have and what you've learned, and not be confronted by some of your biases or some of your restraints, and really, kind of take charge. But you need to trust yourself and kind of have all your thoughts and things in order for you to kind of move forward. Like, okay, we're good, we're gonna do this. Like, no more questioning, no more debating. Like, it's time for us to move forward. And of course, like within Moon Knight, it showed within 3 different personalities, right? You have Mark trying to accomplish the goal so that he can be free, Steven who wants to be just free, and then Conchu who's trying to accomplish like a mission. And so each of them has their own kind of like little aspects, and they're all pulling on each other. And if now what they need to do is work together and trust all of, because they all have attributes that they need, right? Mark is a good fighter, and he's a good, kind of tactician, and he knows how to kind of get things done. Steven has a lot of knowledge, especially in the realm of Egypt, and useful bits of information that are clearly been useful up until now and will be later on. And his restraint, his restraint of not, taking it to the final like kill zone, and having that restraint, allows for more of a heuristic type of a view. And then you have Conchu, who has all the information and knowledge on how to stop a huge potential evil that's about to occur, and gives them all the abilities to fight like their foes. So if now what they need to do is kind of come together and trust each other, which, outside of that, coming back to like what I had started with, is just like, at a certain point, realizing those kind of hindrance along the way, getting you out of your own way, being your own worst enemy. You then have to come to a point where you trust yourself to with the tools that you have, to move forward and make a plan, and trust all these different kind of pieces of you, right? These different aspects that make up you, right? And then work together to accomplish what needs to be accomplished. And so it was just really kind of interesting to see these personalities all be developed in one person, and to kind of pull out these little bits of ideas of, philosophical ideas. Let's off the beaten path ideas of, yourself, and just ideas of thought, and just things that I've been, thinking about, and kind of having random ideas on right here. The other thing that I just think is really interesting, and I know I use that word a lot, but is Harrow, the kind of villain, because he kind of gets a final word in this one, because he kind of gets the upper hand, and Moon Knight's, the Egyptian god Khonshu, gets trapped in stone, and Harrow kind of goes, look, hey, look, just to let you know, like, your torment forged me, and I owe my victory to you. And he also says something about like he enjoyed dealing out the pain for Khonshu, and he has to live with that for the rest of his life. And now that is kind of a tidbit to why he puts the glass in his shoes. Ouch. Because he now deals that pain to himself, because he caused so much pain on the others, because what he thinks he's doing is righteous, which is, kind of a Thanos-esque, like, esque atmosphere or concept. But I just thought it was so interesting, the whole like fact of like, he, throughout his time as being Moon Knight, and the torment that he was caused, like dealing out pain, and having that voice in your head, Khonshu in this matter, forged this fire and this unwavering perspective of what he's to do now, and is the reason why Khonshu's in all this trouble, is because of the pain he put Arthur Harrow through. And it's kind of like this idea of, how our past, like, forges us, and, our environment and our atmosphere, that nature and nurture of things, wind up who we are. And the tougher our experiences, some of us get forged into, sharp blades, and sometimes those blades get wound up used as weapons, because the pain is so much. In his case, he's healed from it, but his perspective is now completely warped on right and wrong due to the pain that he's inflicted on others, and now that he inflicts upon himself, because of the decisions that were made through all that. And I just think that's such an interesting like concept for a villain, and because there's a lot more depth to it. Like you really kind of go back and forth on where he kind of falls with his ideas of what he's doing and why he kind of got there. And I'm using this word again. It's interesting to see, because seeing his history and how he became who he became is, kind of from the right reasons, and kind of very interesting to see what will happen with Mark and Steven through the chaos that they're being put through, and how they will become forged and end up on the other side. Because we've seen one potentiality, and it's a skewed view of right and wrong, and how to wipe away evil. And now we'll kind of see how that all kind of wraps up. And my goodness, I mean, it's just a fun little ride. I mean, it's a fun ride for sure. And, what's really fun about, like, especially with series like this, is you have the time to kind of dive into this. I mean, this is almost like going to be like 6 hours worth of a story here. And you can really get to dive into these personalities and these perspectives and see these characters' development and kind of pre-development, and how it all kind of ties into the overwhelming story, which really just invites you more into the world and is a huge thrill for me. So with that, I'm going to get out of here because, wow, that's just so much fun. And like always, watch it, don't watch it. We're just having a good time talking about random stuff in the moment. And with that, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Until next time, bye-bye.